The ocean floor was never meant to hold secrets like this. Not secrets shaped like cities, or bones the size of freight trains, and certainly not a starship humming with power in the cold dark of 6,000 meters down. Yet there it was, a crescent of metal half buried in silt, its surface untouched by rust, its hull unmarred by the pressure that should have crushed anything built by human hands. The sonar feed looked almost insulted by what it had to display, as if the machine itself didn't believe in the impossible object it reflected. Dr. Mara Ilyan didn't believe it either, not until the research sub's lights swept across the curvature of the structure, revealing lines too deliberate to be geological, too alien to be human, too familiar to be ignored. Smooth, pale metal, organic curves, pulsing lines of bioluminescent script no one had ever documented. Except Mara couldn't shake the feeling she had seen this before. In dreams she never remembered upon waking, in childhood sketches she'd made without meaning to, in equations that sometimes wrote themselves in her margin. Notes before she realized her own hand was holding the pen, she stared through the sub's viewport at the alien vessel. Its massive eye, a crystalline dome half buried in a mound of volcanic glass. It's waiting, she whispered before she could stop herself. Commander Rourke twisted around in his harness. Waiting? For what? For us, Mara said, and winced internally. She sounded like she'd been awake for 70 hours straight, which she had, but there was something about the ship that made her feel small and remembered all at once, like she was standing in front of an old childhood home she'd forgotten existed. The vessel pulsed again, a soft heartbeat of pale blue light, Rourke muttered. If that damn thing moves, I swear I'm ejecting ballast and getting us out of here. It did move, but not in the way he meant. It simply released a sigh of water pressure, a curtain of shimmering bubbles rising in slow motion toward the unreachable surface. A soundless exhale. A greeting. The research sub shuddered. The lights flickered. The alien vessel woke up. The crystalline dome cleared from the inside like an eye-opening. Lines of script along the hull brightened, flaring with recognition as if something inside the ship were scanning them. No, not them. Mara. The vessel's glow intensified, bathing the sub in light. And then, impossibly, Mara heard a voice. Maker. You returned. She froze. The others kept talking, but their voices were muffled, distant, irrelevant against the vast intelligence brushing the edges of her mind. The words were not language, not truly. They were meaning compressed into sensation, a message transmitted directly to thought. I am not your maker, she whispered. I'm human. Human, the ship echoed, as though tasting the word. The children of the makers, the inheritors, the imperfect reflections. But close enough. The sub's alarm screamed. Pressure spikes. Power surges. Something was happening to the water around them. Currents reversing. Gravity twisting in ways that made no physical sense. Mara, Rourke barked. What the hell is it doing? She didn't have time to answer. The ocean lit up as the alien vessel released a wave of pale light enveloping the sub. For a microsecond, Mara saw everything. Starfields she had never known. Wars fought before Earth even cooled. The makers who had crafted this ship and then vanished into entropy. And the ship searching the void for them. And failing. Until now, the vessel's voice filled her mind again. Gentle, reverent, human. You will do. The ocean folded. The sub vanished. And the ship carried Mara upward, toward a destiny humanity was never supposed to inherit. When consciousness returned, Mara found herself suspended in a vast chamber of soft light. Her body floated above a floor that didn't look like a floor at all, more like a membrane, a living surface shifting through colors like a dreaming creature. Her limbs felt weightless. Her chest was tight, but not with fear. It was the shock of breathing perfectly normal air inside an alien starship that had dragged itself from the abyss to find her. Her crew was gone, or rather, relocated. They hung in translucent pods around her, unconscious but unharmed. Suspended as though the ship had scooped them up gently, like a cat relocating its kittens, a panel rose from the floor, shaped like a column of liquid metal. It rippled and formed a vaguely humanoid silhouette, a figure attempting to mimic a shape Mara's mind could comprehend. Not perfect. Not close. But trying. Human Mara Ilyan, the speaker said without moving a mouth. Your presence has been authenticated. Your genetic pattern matches the Maker's resonance. You are capable of completing the Triarch protocol. She swallowed painfully. I don't know what that means. The figure paused in alien contemplation. Correction, you do not know yet. Oh, well, that clarifies nothing, she muttered. The starship adjusted its projection. Like it was embarrassed. You carry fragments, the ship said. Echoes. The Makers seeded your species with incomplete memories, a failsafe. Should the galaxy fall, their children would rise to inherit their duty? Mara barked a laugh. We're not exactly rising to anything. We're still figuring out sustainable toothpaste. The figure tilted its head. Toothpaste? Never mind. Rourke groaned awake in his pod. Where? He caught sight of the shape, then of Mara. Doc? Why are we in some kind of alien womb? It's a starship, Mara said quietly. A very old one. And apparently it thinks we're its replacement caretakers. Rourke slammed a fist against the pod membrane. What? No. We're researchers, not cosmic janitors. The ship turned its attention to him. You are irrelevant. Rourke sputtered. Mara nearly laughed out loud. It was perhaps the first time an extraterrestrial intelligence had roasted a human military officer, and the universe had witnessed it. But the ship grew solemn again. Humanity is the last surviving species with genetic links to the Makers. You are the only ones capable of synchronizing with my systems. Mara frowned. And what happens if we don't? Darkness comes. Not a threat, a certainty. Images flashed in Mara's mind again, fleets devoured by void creatures, stars collapsing, planetary shields disintegrating under storm-black tendrils. The Makers had fought these things, once, and the ship before her had been forged as the first line of defense. But the Makers were gone. All that remained was this ship, Dot, and humanity, a species stumbling half-blind through the cosmos. Armed with optimism, caffeine dependence, and obscene levels of stubbornness. We can't possibly do what they did, she whispered. The ship's voice softened. No, you cannot. But you can do what humans always do. What's that? Adapt, break rules, improvise. Rourke muttered. We're so screwed. But Mara felt something else, a spark. A dangerous thrill, because if there was one thing humans were exceptionally good at, it was stepping into situations they were spectacularly unqualified for. And somehow surviving anyway. The ship's projection stepped closer. Initiate the Triarch protocol, Mara Ilyan. Her pulse fluttered, and with a single breath, she stepped into the role destiny had carved into human DNA millions of years before her species ever learned to walk. The moment Mara touched the central console, every nerve in her body lit up like stardust igniting. She gasped as a cascade of ancient information flooded her, but unlike before, it didn't overwhelm her. The ship filtered it, tailored it, let her absorb only what her mind could hold. She saw fragments of the Makers, luminous beings with skeletal grace, their bodies made of lattice light and biometal threads, their faces obscured by veils woven from gravity, and yet human, not in shape, nothing like it, but in manner, in emotion, in curiosity, in humor. The Makers laughed often, she realized. They teased one another. They mourned deeply. They cared. The ship's voice murmured in her mind. Do you understand now why you are the closest to them? Humans are not their children by blood. You are their children by spirit. Her throat tightened. Rourke, released from his pod, approached warily. Doc, are you okay? Yes, she whispered, though tears blurred her vision. I'm seeing where we came from. Rourke blinked. Mara, you're Russian-Canadian. That's not what I mean. A holographic star map unfolded around them, thousands of systems marked with Maker script. Most were crossed out, dead, consumed, the Void Reavers. The ship intoned. The enemy the Makers could not outrun. My purpose is to guide the next inheritors before the Reavers return. Rourke's jaw tightened. Return? You mean they are already awake? Mara looked at the dying stars marked on the map. The patterns formed a slow spiral inward, toward space humanity would soon explore. How long do we have? She whispered. Years, perhaps less. Rourke cursed under his breath. Then what do we do? We're just humans. Mara straightened. Humans who have a starship older than civilization bonded to our biology, designed to be operated by beings who felt things the way we do. Emotion flickered across the hull, a pulse of soft color she recognized as the ship's version of pride. Correct. Mara Ilian, you are the only ones left who can weaponize empathy? Rourke stared. That's not usually our military doctrine. It is now, Mara murmured, because the Makers hadn't defeated the Reavers with brute force. They had used the one thing the enemy could not comprehend, connection. Networking consciousness. Sharing memories. Threading emotion into shields, laughter into weapon systems, grief into gravity fields. Mara saw equations that looked like poetry, defenses built on shared dreams. Star spears shaped as symphonies. Humanity could do this, because humans had always woven emotion into their weapons art. Story, rage, love, even if they didn't understand it was an advantage. Mara laid a hand over her chest. Show me how to activate full systems. The ship's crystalline eye brightened. Your will is sufficient. Speak the Maker's inheritance. Words surfaced in her thoughts, ancient but familiar. As if she had always known them, she spoke, and the ship answered. Panels opened. Light surged. The organic metal ribs of the vessel reconfigured, humming with power. Deep within its massive hull, the core awakened like a heart restarting after millennia. Rourke watched in awe. Doc, what did you just do? I told it we were ready. Ready for what? She turned toward the viewport as the ocean outside began to boil upward. For ascension. The abyss trembled, and a starship older than recorded history broke free of the sea, rising like a silver sun toward the sky above, carrying with it the first humans ever chosen to inherit the responsibility of an extinct species. The starship pierced the clouds like a blade of dawn, water cascading off its hull in glittering arcs. Sensors built for a long-dead empire scanned Earth's orbit, mapping every satellite, every frequency, every sign of human civilization. The ship seemed pleased. Your species has advanced further than projected, Mara Ilian. We argue about taxes and internet speeds, she replied. We're not exactly ascended. The Makers argued about the shape of suns. Really? Endlessly. She smiled, despite the cosmic stakes. Rourke stood beside her on the command platform, watching the planet shrink behind them. So, what now? The star map unfurled again, this time alive with new routes, paths humans would need to take, worlds they would need to defend, allies they might find, civilizations that had survived by hiding. Humanity, for all its flaws, had been seen by this ship, judged, and chosen, not because they were perfect, because they were chaotic, emotional, stubborn, reckless, because they were human. Mara felt the ship awaiting her command. Like a loyal beast awakening after centuries of slumber. We prepare, she said. For war? Rourke asked. For inevitability. A transmission cut across the ship's sensors, human frequencies, frantic and conflicted. Earth had noticed the departing starship and was begging it to identify itself. Governments were panicking. Social media was exploding. Scientists were already arguing over who should get to examine it. Mara sighed. They're not ready for this. No one ever is, Rourke muttered. The ship addressed them both. You are the inheritors. The galaxy must learn this truth. But first, humanity must learn it. Mara nodded. Take us to high orbit. Then hold position. Rourke blinked. We're going back? Of course we are, she said softly. We may be the new Makers, but we're still human. And humans bring home what they find, even if it's a god starship with abandonment issues. The ship hummed. I do not have abandonment issues. Mara raised an eyebrow. The ship dimmed sheepishly. I was alone for a long time. Her voice softened. Not anymore. The hull brightened. And for the first time since the makers died, the starship felt a crew inside it, not perfect, not genetically crafted, not ancient. But alive. Then the alarms flared. Space around them rippled like a disturbed pond. A darkness emerged at the edge of sensor range, a tear in reality, leaking shadows shaped like jaws. Rourke froze. Is that yes? Mara whispered. The Reavers. The ship braced itself, lines of power racing down its hull. They sense me, it said. They always come for what they failed to destroy. Mara's pulse hammered, but her voice was steady. Then we make them fail again. The Reaver tear widened. The ship turned its gleaming body toward Earth, shielding the planet with its own form. Energy fields rose like wings of light, shimmering with the emotions of its new human crew. Rourke swallowed. Doc, Mara, if this goes badly, it won't. She stepped forward, placing both hands on the console. Humanity has survived every impossible thing the universe has thrown at it. We improvise. We adapt, we overcome, and now we have a ship built to weaponize that. The ship's core flared. Flooding the void with light, Mara inhaled deeply and spoke the Maker's command, older than stars. Illuminate. Light erupted, reality bent. And the first battle of the new Makers began. Humanity, for the first time in history, stepped into the cosmic war it was born for, not as prey, not as bystanders, but as the inheritors of a forgotten empire. The galaxy would never be the same. And neither would humanity.